If Navy carrier pilots are creme de la creme, just what is it that distinguishes them above all else? My experience as an advanced jet flight instructor, preparing students, helo retreads, and seasoned aviators for carrier operations, gave me an appreciation for the extraordinary demands of carrier-based flight operations. What follows now is my take on just how different and challenging the flight discipline of carrier operations is, working with fledgling as well as experienced aviators. Jake Todd, not his real name, had some 1,200 hours of flight time under his belt, coming off his first tour out of flight school flying T-39s in Japan. Now detailed to VT-7, he was to become an advanced jet flight instructor, and I was taking him on his first hop in the TA-4J to fly basic instruments. His flight did not go well. On an S3 pattern, he was rough as a cob all over the sky. An S3 pattern requires precise mastery of three parameters: vertical rate, turn rate, and airspeed, to be timed so that they all intersect at the same checkpoints. Jake was on an abbreviated syllabus, and he likely knew, as I did, that he needed more time and stage to hone his airmanship. I had to direct that he refly the hop after a session in the simulator. This was not a deficiency of his airmanship so much as it was evidence to me that the syllabus should not be abbreviated in this early stage. Marine Captain Harris, again not his real name, was one of my first students and a helo retread. That is, he had completed a tour as a helicopter pilot and was slated to go into the aviate Harrier jet. Like Jake Todd, Captain Harris was on an abbreviated syllabus, and I could not send him to the next step based on his performance in the flight we had just flown. I was an ensign and a little uncomfortable, but had no doubt that he, too, needed a refly after a simulator session I prescribed for Jake Todd. In both instances, I had to award a down to both pilots, both seasoned aviators, but both preparing for exacting flight environment that demanded the utmost skill and precision, carrier-based flight operations. The Jake Todd training experience made me think. His flying T-39s as a transport service for passengers on official business was not likely a grueling task requiring must-go flying in marginal weather. That is, a lot of his flight time was likely as a co-pilot plugged into autopilot, clear air mask, mostly day and sometimes nighttime. Getting back into the saddle for preparing for day and night carrier flight operations after a layoff of 2 years was a steep learning curve. Both Jake and Captain Harris were prime examples to me that led to my epiphany aha moment. Carrier-based aviators on deployment are systematically cycled between day and night operations, even in the same day. Daytime carrier ops in clear air are zip-lit, no radio transmission, and visually sequenced by the pilots, even fun. The most critical aspects of sequencing are: 1, taking a proper interval on the aircraft in front of you in the landing pattern, 2, not flying long in the groove, and 3, not shitting in the gear. That last one is a delicate way of saying taking too long to clear the landing area, which fouls the deck. You get the idea. As I recall, optimum interval for daytime sequences is 30 to 45 seconds. Carrier night ops are entirely different and heightened task. Instrument flying is required for much of the flight. Right off the catapult stroke, an F4 pilot had to ensure proper flight control stick position to prevent his inherently unstable aircraft from over-rotating, nose pitch up. Next is a rendezvous with a designated tanker to take on 1,000 to 1,500 pounds of fuel. Phantoms in an air wing were a limiting factor to the cycle of flight ops to 1.5 hours because of their fuel needs. Next on the flight agenda could be a sequence of breakups and rendezvous. 1XL always did this, not fun. Or air intercepts under the control of the E-2B Hawkeye, not a particularly challenging routine, boring. At some point, the birds had to marshal for a recovery to the roost. The first time I went through this, I realized why flying 172 knots on an airspeed indicator graduated in 5-knot increments was a requirement of the yoke pattern I learned in basic jet training. Everybody coming out of Marshall had to fly their exact profile on speed to not encroach or lag into another aircraft's interval. The captain of the ship who turns into the wind to recover aircraft does not want to hear any foul deck wave-offs during a recovery cycle. Turning into the wind may mean that the captain must spoil his navigation solution to an appointed operating area. So the epiphany is this. 1. Carrier flight operations cannot be flown on autopilot and will be flown in challenging weather conditions, day or night, for the simple reason that we must demonstrate the ability to do so. It's called readiness. 2. The carrier landing itself is a task that requires confidence and skill. No one that has done it will argue otherwise. Those that have not done it just do not know.